Captain, we're in behind the police water cannon who are trying to push what are numbers of protesters in front of them. Protesters have improvised barricades. They're behind metal sheeting. They've been throwing fireworks at the police water cannon, so they are pushing them back now down the square. We've seen a lot of gas going back down towards them, but we see the protesters pushing up now again towards them. A lot of them holding up the Turkish flag, pushing right up to these water cannon. But what you will see happen here is they use the water cannon to try to push them away, but if they feel that's not working, they will push rounds of gas down into them. They're trying to create a buffer zone between them and the protesters. They've been trying to clear this whole end of the square to bring it back under some form of police control, but every time the police pull back, the protesters come into this gap, and for all that they are being very heavily gassed and having significant quantities of water onto them, they are still moving up towards the police. We've got our helmets on, and we're just going to move back slightly. We've got our helmets on because they are throwing rocks at the police water cannon. They've been throwing rocks, fireworks, and they're doing everything they can to resist the police lines, but you can see here what they are up against. Several units of water cannon which will pull back and will then do charges back down towards the protesters' lines. But from where I am, I can see the protesters. We're just going to move closer into the building here and slightly further back. So the water cannon moving down towards the protesters there. The protesters are holding up sections of metal fencing as some sort of protection against the police, but they're trying to take on serious heavy water cannon using sections of metal fencing. It's not difficult to see who is going to have the upper hand in this, but they're setting fire to vehicles in the middle of the square now. There is a van that is on fire, and they are still here in numbers. They're appealing to people to come down here. They want fellow protesters to come here to help them try to defend their square. And this all started, as a small environmental protest, in the centre of this square. And this is what it has become. This is now a protest about civil liberties. People here demanding their personal freedoms. They feel their government is not listening. Their Prime Minister is leading this country in the wrong direction. And they know his words again today. He says that this is an illegal uprising, that it must come to an end. But there are thousands of people in this square who, as you can see, feel very differently. And you can see there the fireworks the protesters are throwing back into the police. And the police returning fire then with gas canisters. And there's a serious quantity of CS gas going now from behind the police lines over the water cannon back into the protesters' lines. They are picking those canisters up, throwing them back at the police, and they are firing fireworks back up at police lines at the top of the square here.
Katie, now if it's safe to stay where you are, you must take cover if you need to. But earlier in the day, there was this talk of some kind of rapprochement, some kind of dialogue starting between protesters, leaders and the government. It doesn't look much like dialogue now, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. We're just going to move back again because there's about to be a lot of gas here, which is going to make it very difficult to speak. But you can see the police lines. I'm going to move out so you can see the police firing from behind the water cannon down onto the protesters' lines, using riot guns, firing serious quantities of CS gas down there. It looks very dramatic. The gas is a suppressant. It is to regain control of the area in front of them, to force the protesters back, to create what they call a sterile zone in front of the police that they can control. And you can see the police reinforcements moving down behind us here. There's a serious quantity of munitions going overhead. We're going to move just back into this alcove because the police are coming down this square now. We'll just pull back here. The team in here. We would just move off to one side. As long as we stay out of the way, it will be fine. But you can see the police moving down behind the water cannon to where there is serious resistance from protesters at the bottom of this square. We're just moving into a little bit of cover because they're firing gas in front of it onto protesters who are further down this street. I suspect it's about to become very difficult to speak, but as long as we're out of the wind, it's fine. As I say, it looks very dramatic with the gas, but what they are doing is taking control of a section of the square here. They're clearing it in front of them. They're moving reinforcements in behind the gas, behind the water cannon, to try to keep control of those areas. The protesters are running away, they're moving back, but then they're reappearing and they are throwing fireworks, rocks, anything they can find, straight back into the police lines.